Welcome to A Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 37 of season 4. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I am Paul LePage.
We have Alex Patakis as producer again tonight,
Hey,
and Danny on the socials.
happy to be back from injury.
And somebody who made his podcast debut during the FanFest episode, and he did such a great job. We wanted to bring him back on for a regular episode. It's Kurt Zellner from Atlanta. Yeah, it's good to talk to you again, Kurt.
Hey guys, good to be here.
It's always exciting to have fresh new blood, Paul.
That's right. Spreading the love of a whole lot of wolves across the country.
That's right. Well, guys, there were 2 games last week. One was fun, the other not so much. So we're going to talk about the fun game first. And that was the 2-1 win over Luton Town. Probably got a little squeakier bum than it should have been. But Paul, that was a pretty exciting game, especially considering the lineup that came out.
I think it was actually Alex that tweeted before the kickoff that it's actually like the first time you genuinely looked at that lineup and thought there was a decent team within there. And that was even taken account in even that obviously Dawson being out and Santi Breno as well not being fit. So when that initial team was released, you looked at it and thought, well, what shape is he going to turn that into? And you're going to see a more advanced role for Out Nuri. Is it 4 at the back? So there was that to consider. But then pretty much straight as kickoff formed, you could see it was a distinct 5 at the back, and it was actually Semedo that was taking that third centre-back spot, which was an interesting move just to see how he would take to it. And obviously, he's got some comfort on the ball, could be quite suited to that type of role to bring the ball out from the back. So that was interesting to see. I think from the impact he had on Wednesday night as well, to get Traore in there for a start was a positive as well. And then you had obviously Cunha back and Wang starting, which was great considering both coming back from injury and building up those minutes. So to have them as starters, it generally looked like they were putting a team out to certainly contend.
Not just start, he played the whole game. That was really impressive. Yeah, it was kind of 50-50 though, Paul, early on, and you could argue that Luton had the better chances.
I think so. Yeah, saw it took that save off of Ross Barkley from distance, and it just seemed they were. Well, obviously, I think they had to go for it more. It would be your carbon copy blueprint of going to Molineux and coming up against the Wolves as a lower placed team, is that you try and score first and park the bus. And there's nothing wrong with that template at all, because we've always struggled breaking down those types of teams. And it was even that opportunity for them to take the lead, I think, before our goal. That header coming into the box off of Morris straight into Sar's hands, but he effectively launched the counter attack that turned into the goal.
Yeah, Kurt, that's only a good game plan for Luton if they score first, which they did not. That would have been our boy Hwang Hee-chan who scored a vintage Hwang goal too. How exciting was that to see him get back in the scoring
Yeah, it was
ways?
one of those things where I think there was a chance with 20 minutes in by Huang, and that one looked like one of those situations where there's no way Huang doesn't pull a Huang here and score it. And actually, everything said and done, that might have been an easier shot in terms of who was back for Luton. But he does sort of make this sort of switch foot and kicks it in his low sort of drives that he does. Looked great. Really seemed like a bit of a turning point, because after that you saw a little bit more domination by Wolves. But I think the thing that was unique about this is you had the buildup from Sa, which sometimes ends up really poorly when he rushes the counterattack. But this time it went maybe a little off from Cunha, but Cunha got it to Wang and sort of set it up perfectly. So I know there are times where Saw leads to the counterattack the other way because he rushes it out, but this one think was the prime example of what he's trying to do and when it works.
What do you think, Kurt? Best game for Huang since AFCON?
Probably so. Would have liked it if he put a few more of those chances away. Had some great assists, potential assists in the second half as well. But it's too bad we couldn't have had him healthy all season. The difference it would have made in some of these matches.
Well, then Danny in the 50th minute, Wolves doubled that advantage. It seemed Tony Gomez really wanted to score on that trip down the pitch. Nearly scores before the corner kick, and then with the corner kick, he's able to head it in. Really exciting stuff from him.
Yeah, that's something I like about Tony. I like that he sometimes, maybe it's that Newcastle at home game that he got that confidence to do it in the big games, but I like that he tries to pop up in the box. And yeah, this goal was one of those that all the commentators and everyone afterwards gets to pull out the old cliche of right off the training ground because I mean it looked like that's exactly what we're trying to do, and it's so refreshing to actually have it come off. The commentator said that some of the players ran to Gary O'Neill, but I've heard since that they maybe ran to whoever the set piece coach is, and I'm not sure if that's Neil Cutler or someone else, but I'm just glad that we're scoring from set pieces. That alone is worth it.
I wonder what the percentage, Danny, of goals that are straight off the training ground for free kicks. Wonder what the conversion percentage of that is.
Low, because the conversion percentage for corners is generally very low.
Yeah, so you add that, yeah, probably even more low. So in the second half, it looked like Wolves could even put a third one away, Alex, and then Semedo, he could have passed to Huang. Instead, he missed a sitter. That was a little frustrating, wasn't it?
I mean, I understand a bit how he didn't make the initial pass to Huang, but then if you watch the goal back, like as he's preparing to shoot and there's defenders scrambling to get in their own net, like on the line, he still has one last opportunity where he could basically take one touch with his left foot and then just leave it there for Huang as if it's like on a tee. And all he would have to do is fire it past whichever defender that was running back into goal with his own momentum carrying him in. So I don't really expect, like, I expected him to make that pass, but I could see how it wouldn't have come off at first as he first looks up to see Huang, because he would kind of have to thread it through perfectly. But he was so composed as he was getting ready to shoot that he almost set it up to where it would have just been an easy assist for Huang to just tap it in. So frustrating, but I will say just I continue to be impressed with Semedo being in good positions. And while it's not always resulting in something, that is another direct thing that I think we can point to Gary O'Neill for, because it's not something we've ever seen Nelson Semedo do under another manager is seem like an actual threat in any way. And
maybe when he's in Saudi,
sooner or later,
a big threat.
Yeah, maybe sooner or later though there'll be some payoff to his efforts going forward.
That just talks to that flexibility of the formation, that he was in that position, that effectively a centre back, that he had that license to go and take it up. But man, I think when you've got that striker who's relatively in form there waiting for the ball, you've just got to get it to him somehow.
It felt like one of those situations that we used to always see with the Dama, where he gets into the perfect position and he just cannons it off the keeper. And that's where I'm like, it's always our right backs, and I don't know how you ever change that, but there are these situations where you're like, there's no way he doesn't get it to someone who could score it or get it past, and it's 100% full power at the keeper and no chance of scoring.
Now, Kurt, you do understand that when you come on this show, no Adama slander is allowed, correct?
See, I listened, what is it, last episode or 2 episodes ago, and I heard that, and I think I'm quite the opposite. Adama was one of those people you throw your phone because you're like, gets the breakaway, no way he misses this, and he misses it, or he misses the obvious pass. Good person, nothing against him as a person, sure, but man, was he frustrating to watch, and it was one of those things where I felt a little bit of solace when he left, just to say I don't have to worry about that stress anymore.
There's our Adama quota for the day, Paul. So Carlton Morris made it a little bit nervy. He scored in the 80th minute. A little squeaky bum, eh, Paul?
Yeah, talking of stress, I think there's only one team that could bring it upon you with a comfortable 2-0 victory trying to close it out, and that's actually Wolverhampton Wanderers. So if there was going to be one team in that whole league to cough up an easy 2-0 victory, it'd probably be us. But yeah, it was a good finish. They managed to hang on. I'd probably put it down to more of the quality of the opposition than us being really comfortable in seeing it out. I think potentially if it was more of a gung-ho approach that Luton took, we might have wilted, but we'll take it.
And then Kurt Aitnery came off with a knock late. He was replaced by Hugo Bueno. What's your level of concern?
So for me, it's almost, and I hate to say this because Ignari is really good and done so well. If he's a little bit not going into the end of the season and that dissuades us from selling him, I think that would be fantastic. But I also think it's a position where we have a little bit more depth. If this was Semedo, and there were a few times where I worried he was injured, that is a different level of concern because I don't think as much as Doherty's done okay this season, I don't think you can rely on him one for entire matches and then for the last 3 matches where you really need Semedo's speed to stay back. So if we have to play Bueno the next 3, I think we survive. Even if Totti has to go outside, you probably survive. I think the most important one to watch is for Palace. So maybe you rest him versus Man City and you see what happens. But also a testament to probably why we should have kept more people back instead of loaning some of these guys out. Would have loved to see what some of these guys could do because it feels like that back line, if you were on a tightrope all season, if you had many injuries, you would have had a mess. So I think we've survived most of it and we probably can't do much from here on out. But hopefully Jeff saw what transpired and he makes better decisions going forward.
I do like, Paul, that we're in the point of the season where we're kind of like, well, if he gets injured, that's not a bad thing because maybe that'll keep with Wolves.
Yeah, unfortunately, I often think that these prospective deals have been long wrapped up that even an injury or a niggle wouldn't put a team off coming in for one of our players. So yeah, I think it could be an issue regardless of the fitness level for sure.
Well, when we talk about man of the match, I know a lot of people would say Boubacar Traore. I think you could actually say Jose Sa. What do you guys think? I'll start with you, Danny.
Yeah, I really like Boubacar Traore in this game and the previous one. I think he's growing up. I think he's developing in front of our eyes, and it's fun to see. And also, he's just put an amazing shift against Luton. I think I'd actually probably just go for Huang. I don't know. I felt like a very even performance around the 11. And so naturally give it to a goal scorer, but also just like it was nice to have him back as a threat up top. Cunha does some amazing things getting us up the field. But just being able to stretch the defense was refreshing to see. So in a game that was full of like pretty good performances all around, I'd recognize his contribution.
I think the interesting part of that is in O'Neill's comments after the game that he was distinctly talking of Wang as a number 9. And you could see it more on Saturday that he was tussling with their centre backs more. So they knew they were in a scrap. He was playing off the last man and working the shoulder more in those balls down the channels or over the top. So that was offering an outlet as well. And I think it's gone on to show, I think, was it The Athletic and their article today that I think you need to put an honourable mention for having both Cunha and Wang start because the opportunities that gives as a partnership, as a 9 and a 10 potentially, like the goals and assists and the points generated from just them two starting, let alone Pedro Neto involved at all, just them two is night and day difference compared to when one of them isn't playing. It's unreal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the peanut butter jelly combo, man. Right, Alex?
That's right. Um, I would go with what you said for man of the match. I guess I would give it to Saw. I was a little uncomfortable with how many chances Luton had that seemed like decent ones. Like there actually wasn't crazy high, but if you look at the percentage of their shots, um, most of them were on target because the shots that they did allow were, I would consider, pretty decent chances that a better quality team with forwards who are maybe
Mhm.
not in a relegation scrap would likely finish or at least test Saw a little bit more. So I'll give him the shout out. And I just feel like we constantly go back and forth about whether or not Wolves can upgrade a keeper. And during the week there was a report or rumor, I guess, about Aaron Ramsdale, and I continue to just be um, disappointed with how like willing some people seem to be to get rid of Saw, who's clearly a good shot stopper. And let's not forget, like the second Wolves go to anything that resembles a back four, there's always issues. So he was called upon again because there was going to be a little bit of a shaky defense, and he stood up to the task. So shouts to him.
Two more honourable mentions, I think, worthy is Lamina and Joe Gomez in the fact that I was worried a little with that three-man midfield that they're all a little samey. So I could have seen um, Traore starting, but I thought Doyle would have got the start as well, just to offer that something a little different. But where I think you saw that actually work in our favour was actually Gomez's early booking, because he had to really tread a fine line from pretty much 10 minutes onwards to try and play that game without picking up a second yellow. So I think he did that admirably. I think Lamina covered a lot of ground, and he picked up that assist with the delivery for Totti in the goal. So those two stand out as well for me.
How about you, Kurt?
Think it's easy in this one to say Jose Sa probably deserved it in the first half. I think had he let some of those in early, you probably have a different result. So I probably lean to Jose Sa. I'd like to say Huang just gives you that chance creation that you didn't have in some of the other matches where he's gone. So he also could have taken it for me. I'd like to say had Totti put away the one on the run, that I give it to him, but it's probably it's Saw for me. Especially, and I think you mentioned right, Alex. If it were any other club, some of those would have been goals. It's just unimaginable that that one header straight to Saw. Those should have been goals, and I think you can hate on Saw, but he was there for the saves he should have made. So
So before that fun Luton loss, there was the shit show that was the Bournemouth midweek game. And it was ugly in a lot of ways. 1-0, really bad performance. But honestly, Wolves still should have gotten a point until VAR came in. I mean, let's back it up 5 minutes and see if there was a foul in the lead up, Paul, I guess what we're going with now. But we had a thread on the Wolves USA Facebook group that we started about the acceptance of VAR based on its prevalence in US major sports. What were some of the responses to that?
I think the big one for me that I'll bring up is our friend Drew in Pittsburgh, because he totally gets it. And why this is so relevant and important to me, that it's all about we're trying to grow this game, right? We're trying to get more people interested in the EPL. We're trying to grow it. We're trying to grow a podcast off the back of supporters following this league, picking up the Wolves and thinking that's the team I'm going to stick with. And now we've got this intervention all of the time. And this is what Drew said. He said the NFL is constantly looking for ways to improve the game and make it more exciting. Sometimes it favors the offense too much, but for the most part, they're trying to encourage more scoring. Most Americans don't care for football because they say there's not enough scoring. VAR seems to be making scoring even more difficult or rare. And even if you do score, you can't celebrate it lest it go to the screen. I don't think that's the way to get more Americans involved. Drew says, I personally love international football. I always will. I grew up playing it and coaching. I adopted Wolves a couple of years ago, and I can't fathom why the powers that be seem to want even less scoring in their beautiful game. And if that's not the most eloquent description of why VAR is such a shit show, then I haven't seen another one.
Yeah, it does seem like they're not looking to confirm a goal, they're looking to rule out a goal, is ultimately what I feel like is the point of it. Kurt, I feel like the NFL, for its flaws, still, if you look at the way they do instant replay, it's pretty good because they always have the official, come to the screen. He's the one that's looking at it. And yeah, the scoring plays are reviewed, and anything that's a question, well, bring the official over. I really feel like that would help solve some problems here.
I think the real thing that Premier League needs is chains at some point. There need to be chains, some sort of measurement that's incredibly archaic that determines the outcomes of games. No, I really think the challenge in the whole VAR situation is that when there's this element of which frame do we choose, and let me get some three-dimensional line involved. In the NFL, the call on the field would stand. So I think there needs to be these elements of there is doubt, and because there's doubt, what happened on the pitch is going to be considered what we go with. And for whatever reason, I think you guys are right. It comes down to these people being forced to make a decision and drawing lines that are as inaccurate as chains to an extent. So for me, let more on the pitch stand, and unless there's overwhelming evidence, don't overturn stuff. Don't add these fouls that didn't affect the play where no one was challenging it anyway.
Exactly. If Cunha's involvement in that goal was right before the assist, then fair enough. I'd probably let it go. Do you call a foul? But you're taking it two plays prior to that. Even did he even touch him? Did it even knock that defender off or anything like that? It certainly didn't, because he was carrying on around just going after anyone anyway. So if it happens that far back before the goal, before the assist, it just seems so irrelevant to me that if it's turning subjective, because it was obviously missed by the ref who was up with play. It was missed by the assistant ref on that side. It is reffing the game from a screen. If it's then going for someone else to go and tell the ref there may be an issue with that, that's re-reffing the game. That's not what it's all about.
Alex, I don't want to sound like Forrest here, but I think there is a significant problem because I feel like in England, you can't grow up without having a favorite club. I feel like you can do that for other sports in America. But when you have English referees, they are going to have grown up rooting for a club, and rooting against clubs, and they're going to have natural biases. I think that does come into play. And I also think at some point down the line, we're going to find out about a big gambling issue that's gone on with the refs.
It's definitely possible, and I agree with your point about referees not necessarily being able to say that they're impartial in any way, given the geography and just the culture there about supporting the club. Which is why, again, I guess the league would never do this because they're probably too proud. But I am still fully supportive of the Premier League not having to have English officials. Like anything else, it should just be a meritocracy. So if you're the best ref in the world and you want to make more money refereeing the Premier League as opposed to whatever, La Liga, whatever it might be, and you're great at it, then go for it. Because I will say, I fell in love with Wolves, but I really fell in love with the game by watching it on the international stage. And even currently, where VAR exists, it is nothing like watching a Premier League game when you're watching what they did in the World Cup with the automated offside, which I understand is coming, but like the difficulty of decisions seems to not be as great anywhere other than the Premier League. And it's the same decision. It's just that the EPL is overcomplicating it by going back, to the buildup of the goal and looking at things that don't impact the play at all. Which I tried to think of an equivalent of that in the NFL. And it would be like if a holding call was not called on the field and everybody says there's a hold every play, right? An offensive lineman is holding somebody and a touchdown, you throw a touchdown, there was no flag. And instead of reviewing, was the guy's knee down or the ball crossed the plane, they go back and they examine all 5 linemen to see if any of them's hands slipped outside of the breastplate of a shoulder pad. Like, how stupid is that? When
That
you
is
contextualize
the
it like that, it's
best
like
comparison.
the dumbest possible thing. So as much as people want to make fun of the NFL and all of its flaws, I actually now, being more interested in European football, have come to realize they have their shit together more than I thought they did.
Yeah, they really do. And Danny, I never hear anything from in official or a referee in a US sport where it's like, oh, he grew up as this fan. And that's like open knowledge in England.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird difference in culture. I don't know why we never hear that in US sports, particularly. Maybe it's just because the markets are so big, the supposed like area of a team. I don't know. Or maybe it's just about supporter culture generally. I mean, just to add on to, sort of what Drew said really in his comment, the thing that I loved about soccer growing up, and then as I got more involved in watching it, especially European soccer, is that the game, the rules and the officiating are both built to sort of like accept that this is kind of the ultimate team sport. So like a goal that happens or a goal that your team concedes has more to do with the overall play of the 22 players on the pitch than about one specific instance. And yes, there are fouls that, create goals or whatever. But, like taking, for example, like that a person doesn't need to take a throw in at the exact spot that the ball crossed the line is just an acceptance that like it doesn't really matter. Gaining 5 yards or 10 yards or 20 yards sometimes on a throw in just doesn't matter that much. And I appreciate that it's a game where the rules are written in such a way that they allow for that. Like, and the obvious example is the offsides, which is sort of the bane of our existence with VAR, where it's like the point of offsides, because there was a time before offsides, was to prevent people from cherry picking, which they will call goal hanging. But basically, before offsides, you could just stand next to the goalkeeper, and anytime your team got the ball, they could just launch it at you. Yep. Well, they didn't want that because that's a boring game. And so they changed it. And the point wasn't to make sure that a runner didn't have an inch, half an inch of a head start on a defender. That wasn't the point. And so now we're taking all this time to figure out whether a goal counts based on a thing that was never the intention. And that's the real shame. And that's what Drew was saying, is that, we're not only are we disallowing goals in a sport where there aren't a ton of goals, but also we're taking so much time on the things that matter the least.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we need to say about that game. It is what it is. It's late in the season. I think I'd be a little more mad if this one decision was going to keep us out of Europe. The fact is, there's a lot of them that have. So, It is what it is.
Whole Lot of Wolves is looking to expand its squad. So if you enjoy working in the creative capacity and share a passion for wolves and graphic design, you could be the perfect addition to our growing crew. If you're interested in learning more, drop us a note via email at hello@wholelotofwolves.com or reach us on X at WLWpod.
So we head into the big matchup on Saturday, which is Wolves at Man City, Saturday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. And once again, we're bringing back our boys from the Noisy Neighbors podcast, Joey and Mulv. Guys, do you think this is just another step on the road to your title?
They want their own intro.
Whole lot of wolves. Whole lot of wolves. There's a whole lot of wolves.
Love it.
Yeah, feeling pretty good.
You feel pretty good.
We
Best
just got done
intro.
doing ours, and we were talking about this because we were looking at everybody's run in and looking at just kind of who's where in the table, right? And respectfully, you guys are kind of just where you're going to be. You know,
That's
like it's
fair.
not going to be like you're not going down, you're not going into Europe, you're just safe. So yeah, we're hoping that's what we come up against, because I mean I don't think it's going to be Brighton on the beach like when we played them last week, and they just didn't care and we ran over them 4-0. But yeah, I'm hoping it's we're not playing a team that's fighting for their lives like some of the other matches we're going to have. Mulv.
Yeah, similar, mate. Although I wouldn't be as disrespectful as you.
I would never.
I didn't view it as disrespectful. Alex might, but I didn't.
No, I enjoyed his qualifier. With all due respect, something like that. No, I like us at home. Honestly, at home we've been very, very good. We do get a full week off, so players who've been playing 3 games a week for a couple of months now, starting to get some rest in between games. So I think we have to be pretty confident about playing Wolves this weekend. I think one of the keys will be having Phil Foden back. Hopefully he's gotten over whatever kept him out the weekend. And if we can get Foden and De Bruyne clicking at home, I think we should be all right.
So what are your best guesses as far as the lineup and the shape? Because I know last time we got really lucky, Rodri was out. But give me good news that Nunes is going to start this week.
Doubt. Yeah, so unfortunately for you guys, Rodri will be just fine. It seems like we won't have Ederson, but our number 2 could probably be a number 1 most places in Europe. I think most City fans would rate Ortega that high. I mean, it's one of those things. Ederson goes down, you freak out for a minute, and then you remember who the guy is, and there's just no concerns. He plays a lot like Ederson, perhaps less unhinged, but still, great with his feet, better shot stopper. So we're happy there. As far as back line goes, we were talking about it, and it's kind of take your pick. We think it's going to be Ake and Akanji again. I don't know if Akanji is the center back or the right back, but he'll be in there. Could be Walker, could be Stones, could be Diaz, no telling. I suspect Vardiol will be on the left just because he's on a heater right now. I forget what we paid, but we still somehow fleeced Leipzig on that because the guy's different grave. He's something else, man. Ahead of him, Rodri. We were debating whether or not it would be Rodri alone or Rodri with Kovacic.
Yeah, that was our big debate. Does Kovacic come in?
Yeah.
You typically don't see him and Rodri together at home, unless it's the biggest of games.
Mhm.
Champions League or an Arsenal or a Liverpool, something like that.
Or
he might try. Or
True.
Wolves. We will find out if Pep rates Wolves this weekend. That's how you'll know, fellas. If you see Kovacic, he's scared of the mighty Wolves.
Yes.
Straight.
Yeah, that was our big decision on our pod, was whether he would be in there or not. But I'll let you finish, Joey, up front.
Yeah, ahead of that, it's probably what we refer to as the Shaggers. So it's Kevin, Phil, Grealish, and Holland, and that's okay. So we'll probably
Okay. So no Dumbo. I'm very disappointed. No Dumbo.
Dumbo. Oh, okay. Now we're even. Now we're even.
True.
Disrespect returned.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's probably going to be those guys, just because we've got to go all of the big guns in every match. I think from now on, we have to win out. You know,
He's had his moments. Nunez. He's had his moments. Like, we're finding that he's most helpful to us when the game's quite open, and we need somebody to dribble through the midfield instead of trying to be intricate and pass it through. He's very good at that. He's very good at carrying the ball. But there's quite the jury's still out, and I think probably Joey's in this camp, not about his talent, but about like where he fits in with us. And because it is quite rare that we need ball carriers like him. We tend to, and I think Pep prefers to pass it through teams rather than dribble through. He did have a moment where his I don't know, inclination to dribble did cost us a goal. When he was receiving the ball out of the back from the goalkeeper, bit of a loose touch as he turned, and I think Ross Barkley scored against us.
Yeah.
So,
also an England legend.
But other than that, he's been okay. There are signs that he has a role to play, but it might not be as frequent as maybe the price tag that we paid for him would indicate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As the season goes on, it seems more and more that he was not a panic buy, but when everything kind of went tits up with Paqueta because of the betting stuff, we still had to fill a hole. And I think we just looked kind of laterally to that. And we were like, well, Nunez is out there. What if we go get Nunez? And it's just, I just don't know where he belongs. Like, no matter which system we play, I don't know where you put him. You know, if it's 4-3-3, is he an 8? I don't know. Is he on the wing? I don't know. If it's that box midfield we do, is he one of the like inside forwards, or is he on the wing? He's not one of the 6s. Like, it's just, he's tough to figure out, but who knows? Maybe he might just be one of those guys that he needs a year under Pep, and then next year he explodes. You know, we've had a couple of those.
So, given those transfer dealings, we're coming up to the summer. Speculation is always rife. So let's have a little quiz. And this quiz comes
good. We're both very smart, so this is going to go great.
It comes in 2 parts. So the first part is this. So on a grading scale of A to F, with A being that there's a decent likelihood it can happen, and F being absolutely no chance. Do you see Man City being in for any of these 3 stars? The first one is as a wide forward or winger and rated by Liam Gallagher. We've got Pedro Neto.
I'll go for that one. And I'll say I'll put him as a B, actually. As I look at our squad, what's happened, I don't know if you've watched, but Phil Foden, Pep's mostly been playing him on the wings in the past few years. But now he's really starting to take off centrally and be trusted centrally, which really sort of leaves us, I think, with a need on the wing. I don't think there's anybody on the right wing, and I don't know enough about Pedro Neto to know if he's a right winger. Does he get played on the right wing or not?
He does. He's got that option to cut in on his favoured left foot and take that shot.
Oh, which...
So you're telling me
Pep loves a left-footed right winger, a la Mahrez, a la Bernardo. I think he tried to do with Leroy Sané before he decided it wasn't going to work. Now I'm at a B plus. So I would say somebody as talented as Pedro Neto, having watched what the development of Phil Foden and how he's probably going to move him centrally, leaves a gap on the right wing, because I think Bernardo is likely to leave. It leaves you on the wings with Doku and Grealish, and you'd probably want one more high quality winger in the mix. So I would say Pedro Neto, very high, mate. Make it maybe a B plus, that we might be sniffing around him.
Okay. Secondly, at left back, left wing back or pretty much anywhere down the left that we've seen this season, you got the option of Ryan Aït-Nouri.
So we were linked to him before, I think 2 years ago, maybe.
Mhm.
And then he performed like shit immediately afterwards.
It's our bad on that. We piled the pressure on. Honestly, probably like a D. Aside from Kyle Walker, we don't play with fullbacks. Ake and Vardiol play left back for us nominally. Those are both center backs. Our right backs, if it's not Kyle Walker, it's John Stones or Manuel Akanji, center backs. Rico Lewis plays there sometimes, academy kid. I don't think any of us really see him as a right back. He can play anywhere, so he just ends up there sometimes. So I think we're going to have bigger issues elsewhere on the pitch, that especially knowing that Vardiol and Ake can both perform over there, that we're okay with going another window or another year without buying anybody over there.
Got you. This one may be a bit of a surprise. It's not being mentioned as a potential destination, but in central midfield, what do you think about Joe Gomez?
Joe Gomez is shit, dude.
Swerving anybody with the name Joe Gomez. First of all, sorry, he's a punchline on our show.
I'll have to accentuate the Zhao then.
Oh,
okay.
Zhao.
That's the.
What about the Portuguese version of Joe?
Yeah, that's better. Better than the
Mulv
version.
always asks if Joe Gomez is the answer, what's the question? I'm
sorry,
lads. I
lads.
don't know anything about this guy.
Me neither. I will.
Let's keep it that way.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Okay, it's a bit of a hidden gem, is it?
Can he?
I take the fifth.
Okay, fair enough.
Can he back up Rodri? That's all we're looking for, fellas. We need Rodri to be able to take a break and us not completely fall apart. Can he play the 6 by himself?
Possibly.
You're not selling me on him.
Yeah. It's a big.
He's more of a natural 8.
Okay, I think we're probably year or two away from needing to really splash cash there. I don't think Kevin's leaving this summer. I think those rumors are pretty baseless. Kovacic does a job in there. Phil can play the 8. We've seen Grealish play in there a couple times, and he looks pretty good. And Rico Lewis plays there. I mean, we just have, similar to center backs, we've got 9 million guys that can play in the middle. So I'm guessing we're probably 2 years out until we come snooping around again.
Got you. And the second part of the quiz, and it is with the spirit of Tommy Doyle, but which Man City squad players are you including as any make weights in those deals?
Have you heard of Calvin Phillips?
we offer you one of England's finest.
Yeah, we haven't, our track record on signings has been pretty good. We've only had 1 or 2 doozies over the years. Your Eliakim Mangalas, your Wilfred Bonnies. But Calvin Phillips, boy, and Joey and I were on record as loving this guy. Like before we signed him, like we thought he was the English Fernandinho. Like we thought we were really getting the full package here. And he just, as soon as he put on a City shirt, he just forgot how to play football. And and then he went to West Ham and forgot again how to play football. So, see, there was a period there where we had quite a few top youngsters, Tommy Doyle included, and they were getting some minutes in Carabao Cup and FA Cup early stages and that. Of late, the ones that have been getting those minutes, I'd actually like to keep.
Yeah,
this is your Oscar Bobbs, Rico Lewis. There are a couple of guys that are loaned out at the moment that could be good fits for Wolves. I would James McAtee's one as a defender at Coventry, is it? Callum Doyle
Callum Doyle's a freak.
Mhm.
Really good left-footed centre back.
Yeah, the last 3 years Callum Doyle's been loaned out. He's been loaned out higher and higher every time. So we loaned him out to League Two. I think he won like Young Player of the Year or something like that. Loaned him out to League One with Sunderland, gets them promoted. This year he's at Coventry. They're doing all right.
He's not related to Tommy, is he?
Don't
In my
believe so.
brain, in my head canon, yeah, 100%. They are cousins. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it would be like younger, super fringe guys like Micah Hamilton and Cash. You know what I mean? Micah Hamilton, he's played a couple games for us, scored in the Champions League on his debut, can play off the right, can play through the middle. Just a good attacking player. Not Sergio Gomez. That guy's a legend. I don't know why that's
Well, it
funny.
sounds like you guys can get rid of Ederson, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should definitely be looking
I
at.
want to know what player you think you have is worth as much as Ederson. If Allison's the best keeper in the world, allegedly, and Ederson's just behind him.
I think it's this João Gomez, mate. They're keeping real quiet.
True.
Real quiet about the João Gomez.
Edison's a better outfield player than some of our outfield players. So
Yeah.
True. I mean, he's legit our fifth penalty taker.
yeah.
The guy's a menace. I think honestly it would be like a loan deal plus cash, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like we take whoever, and here's the money for that. But also here's somebody for like 2 years, you can have him. And if at the end of that, if we don't want him back and you guys want him, cut price, shake hands on it, and move on. You know what I mean? I feel like that seems realistic.
It seems like we're looking like the Tommy Doyle move is that we're looking for that type of profile of player who maybe's got some decent amount of game time in the championship and looking to make,
especially since we're quite pleased with Tommy Doyle.
Good.
He's so good.
I think there could be mileage in McAtee if Neto does go. But it's interesting that you mentioned Doyle at Coventry because we'll have a big gap to fill when it comes to finding Craig Dawson's replacement as that centre half who can dominate and be that real one that you look to as a leader. So I think that was where our focus would be on.
Even Taylor Harwood Bellis.
Yeah.
If Burnley go down, you know,
True.
That's another City one that's just great on the ball, big, came up playing Pep style. You know.
Sorry, off topic, but do you think there's a part to play for Wolves in this run-in, in the title or at the bottom?
Originally, we're thinking that we had Arsenal, yourselves, and Liverpool to play, so we might have some impact. But I think Liverpool's done and dusted now come the end of the season, and it's going to be a Klopp farewell game and doesn't really matter.
Oh, please,
we really wanted to beat
that.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
we really wanted to keep them from winning the title, but I think they did that themselves.
As they have been known to do, you know.
But I mean, take away the De Bruyne game that you guys had against us. What was it, a year and a half ago?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we've given you guys issues, so we don't know.
You have. We just did our review of the Forest game, and obviously Nuno's their manager now. And since he's been there, he typically only plays 4 at the back, but he brings out 5 at the back, which was really worked for him when he was at Wolves against City. There was a season that you took all 6 points from us, I believe. So, yeah. What's please ruin Jurgen Klopp's last game in the league.
Yeah.
Can I ask you all, since you are sort of neutrals in the title race, like, yeah, and you can be honest, you don't have to, because we're on, say that you want City to win it. Like, who do you guys want to win it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm fine with City or Arsenal, either one. Neither of you guys really get my blood boiling. I did not want Liverpool to do it. Fuck Liverpool, man.
Did you have some beef with Liverpool fans in
Liverpool fans are obnoxious.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely obnoxious. I have a few coworkers there, Liverpool fans, and it's a good thing we work remote, or I would punch him in the face at some point.
Noxious, delusional. What else we got here? What else? Any other words you want to use to describe him?
I always find Liverpool fans delusional
Mm-hmm.
and Man United fans arrogant.
Yeah,
That's
entitled.
what I found. Yeah. Alex, what's up, mate? Who are you going for?
I'm sad to say City, because what's one more title? And the banter is so much worse if we can't make fun of Arsenal fans all the time for blowing it.
Oh.
Like, I was gonna ask you guys, like, I just feel like there's just an expectation for neutrals that at some point Arsenal are gonna blow it. And they had their week where they blew it against Villa. They lost in the Champions League, but then Wolves were too injured to give them any type of threat. And I thought we could put the finishing touches on them. But like, is your expectation that like you'll just cruise to this? Because I feel like it's a little different this time. Like, I actually feel like Arsenal might be just as good as City, but I don't want them to win because then we all have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, the gap has closed. Absolutely. Like in losing Riyad Mahrez and Ilkay Gundogan, I think those were big losses in lots of goals and assists there. And I think Arsenal, with the experience that they gained in the title race last year, the addition of Declan Rice, they're defending so well. Saliba's fit. The gap has closed. So we're not. I don't think Joey and I are super confident. We think it's likely that we win out, that both teams win out actually, and it comes down to the last day, and we just pip them to the title again. But I wouldn't say we're super confident. What do you say, Joey?
Yeah, no. I've been a City fan for 25 years, and like, I can't be super confident. Like, it's still just in the back of my head, all the bad times and all that kind of stuff. And we said before the season, like, this isn't going to be like what the last few years have been across the league. We ran away with one or two. Liverpool ran away with one. Last year, we had to catch Arsenal. Like Mulv said, I think it's a probability that both teams win out. But I also wouldn't be shocked if both of us end up dropping points at some point before the end of the season, because it's just been that kind of year. It's been a weird. We keep saying on our show, like, the Barclays is back this year. It's 100% back. Liverpool, Everton, perfect example. That's the Barclays being back. But I could just see it. I could see Arsenal have the rags. Like, I could see that turning into some screwy, like, score draw somehow, where like United figure it out for one match and Arsenal just don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something weird could happen. We have a record at Spurs that could only be described as abysmal. So, like, who knows what goes on there? Which version of Spurs do we get? Like, is Ange gonna actually learn how to defend at some point? Is it gonna be a basketball game again? Like, there's no telling, man. Like, I like I said, I think there's a good chance we do it, but I'm not to the point where we've won enough that I expect us to win every single year. And I hope I never get to that point.
Well, hopefully you guys drop points this weekend.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hell yeah. 0-0 incoming.
I'd take it 100%.
To wrap up, it was so great to see you all, and not personally, we didn't get to go, but to see all of your social media from Nashville was brilliant. I was really excited to see all the fun that you were having. So well done.
Yeah, we had a blast. You could see me on TV a lot with my big old cowboy hat too, and Paul being 10 feet tall helps as well. Well, that was our friends from the Noisy Neighbors podcast. Always good to have them on. And Alex, they drop some good beats too, huh?
Yeah, of course. We do need to make them their own intro.
It's good stuff. So, we've talked about this leading up to it. What would we rather have, the Arsenal win or the double on Man City? And if I remember correctly, a lot of people wanted the double on Man City. You still feel that way, Paul?
Kind of. I think it goes along the lines of having something to grasp from this season, in that we weren't expecting much, but look at what a team O'Neill put together, including the victory at the double over Tottenham and then a double over Man City. Those sound bites have got a real ring to it. So it would be nice. I don't see it. I think we are just inching towards the beat somewhat. If we'd have been playing this maybe 6 weeks ago, or around that Christmas time when we're in that real rich vein of form, with a semi-decent fit squad and an attacking threat, I think we might have been able to do something.
Kurt, what do you think the lineup's going to look like, assuming Aitnery is able to play?
Yeah, I think it looks pretty similar. It probably, if Santi Bueno's back, he probably figures in and it's a back five, and it's a team that probably slows down the pace some. So you probably have Aitnery, Semedo, you have Santi, Totti, and Kilman in the back. Then probably Lamina and Gomez in the middle. And then the front, I think it depends sort of if we want to rest people for Palace or not. Chouira probably should go in if you want to rest people, and you save Cunha, you save Wang for Palace, and you start Sarabia. But it's hard to say, and I think it'll be very telling what Gary puts out there up front in terms of how aggressive he's going to be in the City game versus Palace. So I almost think play Young versus City so that you can sort of come in healthy into the Palace game, but hard to say how he will approach it. I don't think back four is the way to go. I think that could get ugly really fast.
That could get ugly quick.
And I just don't know if that helps anyone going into the Palace match.
I think that the big miss with the reverse fixture, when you're talking about personnel formation, is Craig Dawson, in that he had one job in that reverse fixture. It was to sit as tight as possibly on Haaland, and it worked. So that not happening for this fixture at their place, it's a little scary.
And them having Rodri back too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let's look at the standings here. It is tight. Danny, you're in first place with 24 points. You got 1 point for the Luton match. In fact, everybody got 1 point for the Luton match, but the only one who got 1 point for Bournemouth was Alex. And now Alex, myself, and the guest spot all have 22 points. Paul, not so much. You're going to have to make quite a charge these last 4 weeks.
I do think I'm on the beach now, I must admit.
I just hope it's not Galveston Beach, right?
Yeah, or I'll start having the kids play the kids, have them do the predictions.
All right, Kurt, you get to start us off. What is your prediction?
It's a Wolves loss, and I think unfortunately it's a 4-0 loss for us. So I'm not optimistic in the matchup.
4-0. Okay. Danny, Mr. Leader.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a Wolves loss also. But I'm gonna be a little bit optimistic. I think, we have some of our players back, and as long as nobody's particularly injured, I think we've still got a week before the next game, so he doesn't necessarily need to rest anybody. And I think that even if we're getting very few chances, we can score out of those chances if we have Hwang and Cunha back. So I'm gonna go 4-2 with a goal each from Hwang and Cunha.
Oh, Man City's going to want Cunha after this game, aren't they? Just see
They're the only ones who can afford him.
Yeah, right. Alex?
I wanted to take a big swing, but now that it's a little tighter at the top, I feel like I gotta play it safe and keep myself in contention. So I think I'm gonna go a little bit more optimistic and say 2-1. I think is Lamina, Joao, and a back five. I don't know that we get gashed overwhelmingly. So I'll say it's a tight 2-1 that feels a lot like when we play Arsenal.
Yeah. Paul, you need to be bold or get some prediction right on the mark here.
I did say a week or two ago that I'm just going to call a victory for every game through to the end of the season, but I just can't on Saturday. I'll see that team announced, and if he does rest ahead of Palace, I'll be like kicking myself. So I will go that spirited 2-0 loss, maybe go a goal down early on, but pretty resolute. And then the second comes about 60, 70 minutes in. Yeah, not a battering, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Well, of course, I have to pick Wolves to score. But yeah, I'm thinking probably 3-1 Man City. And I think it's a closer game than the final score says. I think it's 1-1 at halftime. And then they kind of put on that third goal probably in like 93rd, 94th minute when Gary O'Neill's going for it. Which I like, by the way. It frustrates me. Some of these teams that are being relegated they're not really going for the game, whereas Gary O'Neill's like, fuck it, we're going for it. I enjoy that.
No Stupid Questions is presented by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. So whether you're celebrating a Wolves victory or winding down after a day at work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of California's wine country with every sip. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com and use the promo code WOLVES for a 15% discount on your wine purchases. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their products responsibly and in moderation.
Okay, Alex, it's time.
It is time for our favorite segment. That's No Stupid Question, our favorite part of the show, because you, the listener, have the opportunity to ask us anything related to Wolves, as random as it may be, and you usually deliver. You can do so by either emailing us at hello@awholelotofwolves.com, or you can reach us on X. WLW Pod is the show's handle. We'll start with another email from Drew from Pittsburgh, and it's a great one. Players like Ramsdale and even Geddes and Nunes seem to view Wolves as an undesirable Premier League team, he says, while a guy like João Gomez seems to absolutely love it here. With a seemingly brighter future and likable young coach in Gary O'Neill, do you think Wolves have a better shot at some impact signings, or will everything just come down to Fosun and their willingness or lack thereof to spend? I like this question. How much appeal do Wolves have? Kurt, what do you think?
And I think my mates and I talk about this quite a bit because I think it comes down to branding and expectations. And you got Joao Gomez because he thought he was really wanted. I think you've gotten other guys where they see it as a stepping stone. So I blame Fosun for not trying to create a message and sharing it and convincing guys that this is what Wolves are about. This is what we're looking for in guys. That comes down to messaging. And it probably doesn't help that they haven't painted the stadium in 10 years when guys arrive there. So, but no, I think it comes to branding. You probably get guys to want to be there if you convince them that this is the reason they're there and this is the expectations.
I think the extension of that as well, that it's not just down to the young kids. You can look back to Raul and now with Mateus Cunha, of those types of players coming in that may have had like a failed move or gone to Europe and not hit the ground running. They've got an opportunity now to come to the Wolves, and all of a sudden Cunha's rediscovered that form. He looks like a perfect fit for the league, and his value starting to build beyond what we've originally paid for him. So I think if the ambition is there, and we're not talking, for me certainly, crazy ambition throwing millions at it, but some real key signings of those players that can grow in value, maybe a veteran or two, because they've certainly picked up those players that have done well, and then you might add into it a player of the ilk of Acuna that wants to come and kickstart their career again. I think they're really not too far and not too much money away from putting a really tasty side together.
I also think it's about the leagues you shop in. Wolves have done well shopping in Ligue 1. Like, it's the League of Talents, as they call it, or they used to call it, and now it's like the Uber Eats, whatever. But it's got to be like that sweet spot of young enough but experienced enough to step into a Premier League team and play minutes, enough upside, but probably not enough salary demand. And I think all that, there is a common thread with all the guys that Drew mentioned in the email, and it's the whole like George Mendes thing, right? Like and I think Wolves now are not doing like Mendes led business. So that's heartening.
I think
for,
we're out
for
of
Yeah,
the
I
big
mean,
money signing market.
I think we are.
I think
Yeah.
it's going to be more guys like João Gomez. They're the younger, hungry guys, or guys like Dawson and Lamina, who maybe more of vets and see this as an opportunity where, hey, I can be a most of the time starter by coming there if I play well. I think that's what Wolves are getting back to. And honestly, I'm fine with that. That's when we're at our best.
Yeah. Don't want Ramsdale, by the way.
No.
Please no. Let's continue with Stu from the Wolves Fancast, who brings up something that I'm interested to talk about because he says, how do you feel about the rumors of Wolves making their kits in-house next year, going from Adidas to Castore to now She Sports, a name pending, of course, of what it would be. Does this make you less likely to buy more merch next season?
It depends. As long as a 2X is an actual 2X for us bigger guys, because I really feel fucking fat when I have to order a 3X from something Castor. Like, look, I'm a bigger guy. I'm not that big. Like, come on. So if a 2X fits like a 2X should, then I'm all for it.
I think I'm a bad demographic to ask as a 40 plus male walking around in a replica jersey, but it's kind of the done thing here in the States, so you kind of have to ride that wave. But I think it's there's a couple of angles to approach it. The first, it's so unprecedented that I'm really struggling at Fosun thinking, oh, I know a quick way to make some extra cash is to like brand our own merch and not go the licensing or partnership route. So I just don't see that. But then the second element of that is that if you put a really nice kit together, that it shouldn't matter what's on the opposite breast in terms of what's opposite the badge. If it's a nice kit, the kit's going to sell. But it does have that like stigma to it that you look at it and it seems like something from a marketplace or stitched together and bought off like eBay is like a fake, then that's just going to look terrible. But I go back to that they've done this 2 times, I think, in the past like 20-30 years. The last time you might have seen it kicking around, it's like that really dark, they said old gold color, which verged on brown, especially when it got wet. So that was like an attempt at their own branded stuff. But prior to that, there was a kit around the 96-97 era, and that was pretty much a perfect Wolves kit. Orange, black trim. It had the city crest on it rather than the wolf head. Plain Goodyear sponsor, a little icon of like a wolf head and WFC or something like that. And that was like perfect as like the most simplistic Wolves looking jersey you could possibly have. So I think at the end of the day, it's got to come down to what it looks like.
Plus, they need the pink away kit.
Yeah.
Which I think is coming. Judging how fast those saw pink kits went this year, pink's coming in some form or fashion next year.
I fell into a cycle early of like, no matter what the shirt was, I was going to buy it because I felt like I was just going to have one from every year. But I stopped. So I wonder, like, now I guess my answer would be, if it looks cool, I'll buy it. Like if I'm into the design. So like, do we trust Fosun to not cheap out and maybe get creatives in that will design something really cool? Like, I don't know, maybe. I think I'm past the point of like no matter what, it's like a tax I pay every year where I'm just buying this shirt.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, no, basically to answer your question, I don't trust them to do it. And I know that they probably think of this as, diversifying, that it's another way for them to make money. If it's all in-house, then they get to keep all the profits instead of Castor getting some or whatever. But I would like to introduce Jeff Shee to the concept of diversifying blame, which is to say, like, there were some of those Adidas kits that sucked and I didn't love the quality. But like, then we just get to shake our fists at Adidas for giving us a template, and it sucks that they don't make us a custom thing. Whereas if the kit sucks, then more blame gets heaped on Jeff Shee and Fosun. And do they need that? I don't know.
I think the thing about the Adidas is we were sort of second tier for them. So I think if you have Fosun, which is like a conglomerate, has lots of businesses, maybe they have a business that makes kits somewhere. Maybe they're quite good at it and they will prioritize us relative to some of these other brands. But I agree, Adidas, it felt like, even though not everything from Castor was perfect, it felt like an upgrade from Adidas. So as long as I can go for runs in it and it doesn't fall apart or feel weird, I'm all for a new brand and trying it out.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, all of them are made by like young Chinese kids anyways, so.
So what Kurt's saying is, like, the experienced young Chinese kids who are making the Arsenal kits are the ones we need to make to make to make the Wolves kits.
It's the
okay,
U12s.
Let's move on to something way more heartwarming, and that is Todd DeWitt, who says we adopted a dog this last weekend and are considering a name change. He's a Dotson mix who is well-mannered, quiet, but has a hard time picking up social cues from other dogs. So which former or current Wolves player should we name him after? He's really cute, by the way.
Nunez, he's got big ears. It has to be Nunez, right? Ears. Can't pick up social cues.
Oh, but come on. If you're you can't, as a Wolves fan, a diehard, you can't name him after Matthias. Also, it'd be hilarious to introduce yourself and like, oh, this is my dog, Matthias. Be like, what?
For me, I think it boils down to this, in that I'm a really big fan of pets given human names.
Yes.
Like it's got to be like a Jeff or a Dave. So for me,
I have a cat named Phil, so I completely agree.
There you go. And I think from dog training, you do need a name with 2 syllables, so they listen, they know the name better. And what better to combine everything? It's not a player, but to show him our love, the dog has got to be called Gary.
Yeah. I love it.
That's a good one.
And Todd, I don't care what you call him from this point forward, I'm calling that dog Gary.
Okay, let's go to Brian Donnelly, who says, what percentage of Saturday's win can be attributed to Totti bringing the blonde hair back? This is going to be featured in our next spreadsheet, right? Danny's done the work. I think we have an answer to this, so it's not even guessing at this point, right?
Yes, we have an answer. And in fact, this was sort of in the works before the question came. But thank you for bringing it up again to remind me, because I did take the day off of work today, unrelated to this, but it was a good thing to spend a couple hours on before the podcast. So you may have seen, and we actually did allude to this earlier, that the Athletic put together this thing where when both Cunha and Wang start, we have like a 50% win percentage, but when only one or neither of them start, it's like 25%. Okay, so I went back and looked at all the games we've played this year, and whether Totti had blonde hair or not blonde hair. And I did not count any that he didn't feature in at all. You remember that he didn't play in a bunch of the early games.
Right.
So I'm going to, I don't know how the Zoom is going to handle this, but I'm going to drop a file into the chat, which you can peruse if you like, which has the results of it particularly. But you'll see that when Totti has blonde hair, our win percentage is 57%.
Oh my God.
And when he is not blonde, it's only 27.8%. So
Wow.
it's actually arguably even stronger than the Cunha Huang matchup is Toady having blonde hair or not.
Wait a second. This is so great because now that I'm looking at this spreadsheet, not only did you do this for Toady in advance of this
Yeah.
question, but
This is amazing.
there are 4 columns that include Mario Lamina, Cunha, and then the combination of either Toady and Lamina or all 3 of them having bleached blonde hair.
You've outdone yourself this time, Danny.
Yeah,
I'm
so
impressed.
we have never won a game where all 3 of Toady, Lamina, and Cunha have not blonde hair. So it really, our entire season rests on at least one of them having blonde hair. So I combined Toady and Lamina because Cunha, there's a little bit of an asterisk. He actually never had blonde hair during our season, truly, in the sense that he was blonde during the summer, seemingly. And I it I'll share the link of the spreadsheet later, obviously, but there's a box around the first like 8 or 9 matches because his blonde hair was just slowly getting less and less, where he was getting haircuts and there was just less blonde. So the last one I could truly say he like had blonde hair was the win against Man City. And then after that, he clearly got a haircut. There was no more blonde left, and he has had blonde hair since, but only during his injuries. He's never played with blonde hair since. Like I remember that video. I can't remember which game it was. I think it was maybe like the Brighton or the Brentford win to send us to the Black Country Derby, where he was in the stands and was like cheering on. Or no, he was part of that game. I don't know. He was in the stands for some win of ours. He was like cheering them on. He had blonde hair in that video. I kept thinking like, there's got to be some of these games where he's got blonde hair. Nope. He has not played with blonde hair since that Man City win. So Toady and Lamina are the big ones who have like Lamina switches from blonde to not blonde all the time. And you'll see that when they are both blonde, we win 62.5% of the time. But when they are both not blonde, we can only manage 11% of our games winning.
Somebody
So
get this message to Russell over at Wolves.
So what you're saying is I should change my prediction
yeah,
for Man City because there's no way, unless he dyed it dark enough, that all that blonde would fade. So we're getting a blonde Toty, meaning we have a way higher percentage chance of pulling off a win like this. So all right,
that's right.
That's amazing. I love that we have a bleach blonde Wolves player beat reporter of our own that we can call on at any moment. That's excellent. Thank you for
I
that.
thought this answer would be good. I didn't realize that it would be unbelievable.
I mean, it's color coded and everything. This is just chef's kiss.
I also this is maybe a day 2 item. Did Lamina score a headed goal with blonde hair too? I think that's like the next level advanced next gen stats version of this. Is there likelihood to score headers
so
with
I
blonde
can
hair?
quickly look down because I have a weird memory. He scored a headed goal against Chelsea without blonde hair.
Oh, okay.
He scored the winner against Tottenham with blonde hair though.
Okay.
At home.
Okay, not a header, but still goal scoring records improving. With
yes.
Okay. Can't top that. So I think that's where we'll wrap the no stupid questions. And they are brought to you, of course, by Esfuerzo Wines, showcasing 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Head to esfuerzowines.com. Use the promo code Wolves. You'll receive a 15% discount on your wine order. Summer's coming. Time to load up for all those barbecues and days by the pool and trips to the beach. You won't regret it. Esfuerzowines.com.
Kurt, you put in quite a shift today. Thanks for coming on, your first full podcast experience. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
Really appreciate it. I'm on Twitter as Original Bip. I also am pretty active on Discord. So if any of you want to argue about stuff Wolves related, let me know. And we have Discord where everyone is wrong all the time.
Uh-oh. Am I allowed in?
but you're probably going to be wrong about your takes.
That's a given.
That's a given, right?
And thanks to Danny on the socials, Alex producing, and to you, the listener, taking part each week, because without the audience, there wouldn't be a show. So reviews are important to this growth and exposure. So if you're yet to do so, please leave 5 stars and some nice comments or nasty comments, I really don't care, on the podcast platform that you listen to us on. We will be back this time next week. We're going to summarize everything, what happens at Man City, and then look forward to that last home game of the season versus Crystal Palace. So in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, up the mighty Wolves.
You can get exposure for your business like Esfuerzo Wines have enjoyed throughout this year. Just email hello@wholelotofwolves.com for both segment and main show sponsor opportunities for the upcoming 5th season.